Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some more breaking news from the transfer portal for Nebraska fans, but also for college football fans across the country, as Casey Thompson, one of the more proven and experienced quarterbacks in the transfer portal now, is officially in the portal. We'll talk a little bit about what this Nebraska quarterback room is looking like after losing Casey Thompson, and then talk a little bit about potential destinations that would make sense for a quarterback who's played a lot of football, a lot of good football, in my opinion, and a guy like Casey Thompson. Now, before we get into it again, just want to say thank you to you guys. The transfer portal, the recruiting trail has been an absolute blast to talk about. It's been a busy last couple of weeks, and all the support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, lock in, because I think it's going to be another busy couple months heading into those summer official visits. So again, appreciate all the support you guys have shown. Let's get into Casey Thompson. I want to talk a little bit about this Nebraska quarterback room. They entered the spring with 6 guys on scholarship at the quarterback position. I think you knew that at the end of spring ball, like, there wasn't going to be 6 scholarship quarterbacks in that room, and that's exactly what happened. Jeff Sims, Henrik Harburg, Chubba Purdy, the last 3 quarterbacks on scholarship. That was my calculations there. And that's still a pretty good quarterback room. And you look at Casey Thompson in this situation, I thought Casey Thompson did not get enough credit for how good he was for Nebraska last year. And I get the record didn't show it. I don't think the offensive numbers showed it. That offensive line was not good. And if it wasn't Trey Palmer catching the football, their wide receiver play was also not very good. Casey Thompson, I think, did his best with what he had around him. But again, you have to remember that Casey Thompson was from the Scott Frost regime. Like, that's where he transferred for Scott Frost in that Mark Whipple offense. And Matt Rule and Satterfield, they go after Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech, and that's the guy that they chose to run this offense. Jeff Sims looked pretty solid in the spring game. Casey Thompson hasn't had any reps in this first team offense because of the surgery that he had, the injury that he's nursing in the offseason. And so Casey Thompson would have had to make a really big push in that small fall camp window to win that quarterback one spot, with Jeff Sims having pretty much all the reps with the quarterback with the first team offense. And so, in my mind, with a guy like Casey Thompson, I think Nebraska fans, it makes sense, and you wish him well, because he's an experienced guy that deserves to be starting at a Power 5 spot. It just might not be in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, Jeff Sims, I think it is why they went with Jeff Sims is because he gives them a little bit more playmaking ability. Casey Thompson's a solid athlete, but he's small. And last year, you watch him, he was playing banged up. His pockets were very dirty, getting sacked a lot, at least getting hit a lot. Jeff Sims is a guy that gives you some mobility, gives you a little bit more playmaking ability, and kind of second chances at plays. When the protection breaks down, Jeff Sims is a dude that can hard to bring down, can extend plays outside the pocket, and has an arm to rip it downfield. I think that's why Matt Rule and Coach Satterfield went after Jeff Sims in the transfer portal. And you go back to when he came in January, it did seem like we're not getting Jeff Sims, who started for so many years at Georgia Tech, to be quarterback 2 in this offense. And it always kind of, in my mind, and maybe Nebraska fans might disagree, I think Jeff Sims was the guy since day one for Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield's offense. Now, interesting part is, where is Jeff Sims going to land? Because again, you haven't seen that. You just saw Tyler Buckner hit the portal. He's another guy that hasn't played that much football. Even dating back to high school, was banged up. Was the starter in 2022, then got hurt and missed most of the year. And then he winds up at Alabama. He's a talented prospect. But in this transfer window, you haven't seen many starting caliber quarterbacks that you know can start at the Power 5 level hit the transfer portal. Casey Thompson represents that one. And you're looking at some schools that have pretty good talent on their team and are missing a quarterback. I think Casey Thompson would be a perfect fit for some of those schools. Kind of the list that I gathered here. 1, Auburn. I think in Hugh Freeze's offense, I think Casey Thompson would make a lot of sense. And if you don't feel great about a guy like Robbie Ashford, Casey Thompson's a dude that's played a lot of football. You go back, you can't find many guys in the transfer portal that's thrown for almost 5,000 yards and 47 touchdowns in their career. Casey Thompson is probably the most productive and experienced quarterback in the transfer portal at the Power 5 level as we stand right now. And so teams like Auburn or Florida, they're taking a long look at a guy like Casey Thompson. I'm sure a guy like Casey Thompson will have a lot of suitors. Auburn seems to make the most sense because I don't think Hugh Freeze took over, and I was really surprised that they were kind of gunning at guys like Grayson McCall and Devin Lear in the transfer portal back in the winter. They didn't land those guys. I would not be surprised if a team like Auburn makes a serious push for a guy like Casey Thompson, who's been so productive and at times has looked really, really good as a quarterback. And it also makes sense that he limited eligibility left. You have Walker White coming in, so kind of like a mentorship as well. Casey Thompson's experienced. He's played a lot of football, but it is going to be Walker White's offense, I think a lot of Auburn fans would say, in the future. I think you can say a lot of the same ththings for the Florida Gators, right? Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, if you guys watch the spring game, it's not like you're extremely excited about what those guys bring to the table. I'm not so far out on Graham Mertz, but I'm probably more in on a guy like Casey Thompson. And Billy Napier said, we're going to address that position in this spring transfer portal window. Casey Thompson represents a phenomenal way to get more competition and more talent into that quarterback room because, quite frankly, right now it's lacking in a big-time way. And very similar to the conversation we had with Walker White at Auburn, like DJ Lagway coming in that 2024 class, Casey Thompson makes a lot of sense as kind of a gap quarterback, right? This, I think, in the future, if Florida's going to kind of get back to the top of the SEC, they're going to have to hit on a guy like DJ Lagway and that 2024 recruiting class. Casey Thompson is a guy that can help you win some football games in 2023, be a veteran presence in that locker room, and kind of steady the ship at that quarterback room while also not kind of discouraging a guy like DJ Lagway from not coming. If you go after a young quarterback that has a lot of upside too, maybe DJ Lagway feels a little different about his commitment to Florida in the sense that I want to come in and have to deal with such a talented quarterback room. Casey Thompson, in my opinion, kind of poses no threat to DJ Lagway's runway as a starter and taking over that Florida offense. Those were the two that made the most sense. But when you get down to it, that's been one position that hasn't been very talented in the transfer portal, right? Tyler Buckner hits the transfer portal, gets scooped up by Alabama in almost less than 48 hours. But even a guy like Tyler Buckner, he was recruited heavily out of high school. You haven't really seen the productivity in a proven level of play to play at the Power 5 level. Casey Thompson, you have. Like, you've seen him play some really, really good football. He's got some good arm talent. He's very good at pushing the ball down the field vertically. This represents, in my opinion, as a transfer portal stands right now, and I should probably give you the exact date I'm recording, Friday, April 28th at 12:30, is Casey Thompson's probably the best quarterback in terms of starting day one in 2023 in the transfer portal right now. I expect him to be a hot commodity coming out of the transfer portal. We'll see where he goes. We'll come back and recap it as well. So again, appreciate all the support you guys are showing. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Over 5,000 subscribers on the channel is absolutely insane. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.